I'm sharing one of the easiest things you can do to help your child be a better eater. And the magic of this simple thing, it makes your life easier too.
Welcome to the Nourish Child Podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
Hey friends, I'm Jill Castle, a pediatric dietitian, mom to 4 kids, and host of this podcast. I started this podcast in 2016 as a way to help families and healthcare professionals learn more about nutrition and feeding kids. My goal has always been to make nourishing your families easier through breaking down science into understandable concepts you can put into practice right away, and shedding light on and improving the emotional well-being of kids through feeding and food. You can always go deeper on my website, thenourishchild.com, where I have resources for children ages birth through teen. I'm always so grateful you're here, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nourish Child Podcast. I'm Jill, your host, and we are in August. And it has been a busy month. I took the first week of August off and visited some family and friends in Maine. And what a beautiful state. If you ever have the chance to get there, I highly recommend it, especially in the summer. And I ate a lot of lobster. Lobster rolls. Oh my goodness. Whole lobster. It was just so yummy. And of course, you can't have lobster without the butter. I suppose you could if you have a milk allergy or just are not a fan of butter, but I myself am a big fan of butter. So I had a lot of butter in Maine with my lobster. My book is in the copy editing phase, which for those of you who might not know what the process is when you write a book, authors spend a lot of time writing the manuscript, which is basically the meat and potatoes of the book. And once a publisher accepts the manuscript, they put it through a process called copy editing, where they really dissect the book and make sure everything is spelled correctly, punctuation is correct, headers and chapters and call-out boxes and any sort of decorations in the book is all figured out during this phase. And it takes quite a while. I think several months it takes before they do a final check, which will be on my end. I'll be doing a final read of the book to make sure everything is good. And then they put it into production. So all this to say, I feel very relieved that I've gotten through the manuscript phase. And now it is pretty much out of my hands for the next few months, which is awesome. So I'm going to have a wonderful fall spending time on the blog and this podcast and working with families again. So last episode, I announced that I am open for business in private practice. However, I'm using a different model. So instead of the one and done model, which is go see the dietitian once, twice, 3 times maybe, or maybe more than that, I'm doing more of a long-term engagement to really help families achieve the goals that they have for themselves and their children. I know it takes more than 4 or 5 visits to make significant change. And so I am offering that sort of format for families as of now. So if it's something that you are interested in, please check out my website, jillcastle.com, and go to the consulting tab. And you'll see pediatric private practice. You can click on that and learn about what it's like to work with me, who I'm anxious to work with. And if it's a fit for you, we get on a call and just make sure we want to work together for the next 6 or 12 months. But go ahead and check it out if you're looking for help for your child or for your entire family. I am anxious to get going with a small number of families. So maybe you will be one of them. Starting in September, we get back on the guest expert episodes. So I will be doing some short solo episodes like I have been doing all summer, but I also have a few guests lined up moving forward, and I am excited to have them on the show. Remember, if you have questions yourself about nutrition for your child, you can go to my website, thenourishchild.com, and go to the podcast tab, and there is a little microphone there whereby you can ask your questions, and I'll answer them right here on the show. Okay, so today we are talking about meals and snacks and a schedule for those, because guess what, folks? It works for kids big time. So as a mom of 4 of my own children who are grown and flown and a pediatric dietitian, I know that meal and snack time can feel unpredictable, frustrating, and exhausting, especially if you don't have a consistent routine. And I also know that when things are inconsistent or chaotic around food and meals, it can feel the same way for your child as well. Unpredictable, frustrating, and exhausting. But one of the simplest things you can do to make your life easier is to use a daily meal and snack schedule for your entire family. Not only is it easier for you and your child, but it also helps your child become a better eater. And that's what I want to focus on today. I want to share with you how a meal and snack schedule helps your child eat better. In fact, I have 4 very good reasons why you should seriously consider implementing this type of structure, predictable schedule, routine around meals and snacks for your children. So number 1, routine meals and snacks build better appetite regulation. So we know kids eat, they get full, they stop eating, then after a few hours, they get hungry again. And so they eat again. This is how the day goes. But sometimes it feels like kids are hungry all the time. And we know that when meals and snacks happen at regular times, kids are better able to listen to their appetite cues or to listen to what their body is telling them. Not only do they eat when they're hungry, but they are also capable of stopping when they're full. So this appetite intuition, if you will, is something that can happen when meals and snacks are on a regular routine. Why is that? Well, physiologically, your child's tummy fills up with food, and certain nutrients in that food, like protein, fat, and fiber, are very filling, and they can slow down the emptying of your child's stomach. In simple terms, this makes your child last longer between meals and snacks before they get hungry again. Regular meals and snacks also make it more likely that your child will have an appetite when it's actually time to eat. And depending on what your child is eating, this routine can also limit excess hunger. So what are we talking about when we talk about a regular meal and snack schedule? Well, we're really talking about the intervals of time between meals and snacks. So for toddlers, because their tummies are little and they don't hold a lot of food in their tummies, we usually say toddlers should be eating every 2.5 to 3 hours. So you're blocking time between breakfast and snack, lunch and snack and bedtime, or snack and dinner and bedtime. You're blocking windows of time in the amount of 2.5 to 3 hours. Kids who are a little bit older, whose tummies are a little bit bigger, and whose tummies can hold a little bit more food, eat about every 3 to 4 hours. So again, you're blocking time between breakfast and snack and lunch and snack and dinner in 3 to 4 hour intervals. Kids change a lot. Their nutrition needs, eating habits, and food preferences do too. So much so, it can be hard to keep up. The Nourished Child, a website designed for parents who want more nutrition education, helps parents like you get crystal clear on raising good eaters. We've cracked the code on nourishing the whole child, whether you're raising a baby, a teen, or a child with health concerns. Our nutrition school and parent education programs help you get the inside scoop on food and nutrients, positive food parenting, and building self-motivated, autonomous kids who are good eaters. Visit thenourishedchild.com today. And teenagers who, again, are larger in size with a larger tummy and who can eat more food, we tend to say we want to see them eating on a schedule of every 4 to 5 hours, which in fact is good practice for adults as well. Now, this is not a strict schedule. Life happens. You can eat 15, 30 minutes earlier than your normal time or 15 or 30 minutes later than your normal time. But you do want to have somewhat of a schedule, a predictable eating schedule for your child. So if we just sort of look at a school-age child who's going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so 3 meals, and typically eat 2 snacks a day, we are really blocking it out like this. A 7 a.m. breakfast, 3 hours later at 10 a.m. a snack, 3 hours later at 1 o'clock lunch, 2.5 hours later after school a snack, and 2.5 hours later, 6 o'clock dinner. So sometimes that gets a little crunched at the end of the day. You can alter those times based on what is realistic for your family and your schedule. But that's just an example to think about. So that's the first thing. Routine meals and snacks build better appetite regulation. The second reason why it's a good idea to have routine meals and snacks is that it reduces extra eating. So when children are grazing or allowed to eat whenever they feel like it, even when they're bored, the risk of overeating is high. They are also at higher risk of losing their connection to their appetite cues, meaning that sense of hunger and sense of fullness gets muffled. They oftentimes don't actually even get hungry because they're eating too frequently. So one way to deal with this is to set limits or boundaries. I love a good limit, such as where food is eaten, when it's eaten. These things, these boundaries can help prevent children from overeating, snacking too much, filling up on snacks and not having an appetite for mealtime, and eventually losing that connection to their sense of appetite. So boundaries or limits around food and eating basically support and reinforce the meal and snack schedule. So what is an example of a boundary? My favorite boundary is the kitchen is closed. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while or following me, I've talked about the kitchen is closed way back in 2011 when I co-authored Fearless Feeding. The kitchen is closed just basically is a sort of theoretical boundary. It just simply means that when it's not mealtime and it's not time for snacks, there's no going in the kitchen to eat. It's closed. So it's just a nicer way to say no eating between meals or extra snacking. Another boundary example is we only eat in the kitchen. Translated, that means we don't eat in front of the TV. We don't eat in our bed upstairs in our room. We don't eat in the car. We eat in the kitchen. So it's just a clarification for kids. And remember, kids like things to be very predictable and clear. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the third example of a boundary is ask before taking. So it's just putting you in charge of food and the kitchen, that children don't have free rein to just go in and help themselves in the pantry or the refrigerator, that you actually are the person in charge and they need to come and ask before they help themselves. Okay, now the third reason why having a meal and snack routine is helpful is that it promotes food predictability. So, as I mentioned, kids thrive with predictability. You just have to look at regular bedtimes, wake times, or how the school day runs on a very predictable schedule. These routines are helping children trust the system, cooperate, and stay calm. And these apply to food routines also. Consistent meals and snacks ease food insecurity, constant questioning about when food is happening or meals are happening or what's on the menu. And it can also help deter other behaviors around eating, like sneaking food. So promoting food predictability is really helpful for kids. And a regular meal and snack schedule can really help ensure predictability around food is present in your home. So the last reason, good reason why you should seriously consider implementing a meal and snack schedule is that it means less food prep, which I think is a win. I consider it a win for me. I think perhaps you might consider it a win for you too. Most kids eat 4 to 6 times a day. This translates, as I mentioned above, to 3 meals and 1 to 3 snacks each day, depending on how old your child is. If you don't have meals and snacks happening at set times, you may be actually making more food than you need to, and you might even be catering to your child's food preferences. So again, we don't need to work harder than we already do. Feeding kids is not an easy job. We do it several times a day. If you're making food for your kids more than 4 to 6 times a day, you may benefit from really trying to firm up your structure around meals and snacks. And I know the effort to schedule consistent meals and snacks might feel like a lot of work, but in the long run, this type of eating schedule makes your life easier while also helping your child be able to tune into their appetite, avoid extra eating, and be calmer around food. So if you feel like your meal and snack schedule could use some work, now is the time to try to restructure it. I've got more help for you on this topic in some articles on the blog, which I will link up in the article for this podcast. You can read those articles. That should help sort of reemphasize what I've talked about today. But also remember, I have 2 great book resources for you that touches on this. Number 1 is Fearless Feeding, How to Raise Healthy Eaters from High Chair to High School. The 2nd edition was published in 2019, and we had a little glitch with the ebook charts, and we have fixed that. So you can get that ebook or hard copy on Amazon. Just search for Fearless Feeding and you'll be able to find it. And the other book recommendation is The Smart Mom's Guide to Healthy Snacking. I take you through how to raise a smart snacker with the acronym SMART Snacking to help you really embrace all the elements of healthful snacking in children. So also you can get the ebook or the hard copy of The Smart Mom's Guide to Healthy Snacking on Amazon. That's it, folks. I hope that all is well with you and your family. Again, this is one of the easiest things you can do to help your child be a better eater and to lighten the load on yourself. I hope you give it a try. In the meantime, make sure you give that child in your life a loving squeeze today, and I will talk with you next time. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child Podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child inside and out.